today we're going to be reacting to the sad truth about Gen Z. Let's get into it.
It's written off as dramatic a lot, but if you actually look at the stuff people our age are scared of, it kind of makes sense. This isn't random anxiety or being soft. A lot of it is very real, very structural, and very hard to ignore. We're the first generation to grow up watching everything get documented, archived, priced out, automated, and judged in real time. Housing feels unreachable, relationships feel unstable, one wrong move can live online forever, and on top of that, you're constantly being compared to people who look perfect, and you might get replaced by software tomorrow. So when people say Gen Z is anxious or paranoid, it's like, yeah, look at the environment. These aren't
And look, here's the scariest part about it too, right? I think my generation, right, I always say my generation was the last real nigga generation. Let me explain why. When we were kids, we were able to go outside, play. That was normal. Not having a phone, not having anything like that was normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, not having none of that was normal. You would just go outside, kick it with your friends, come back inside. Everything felt safe. The world felt safer as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Probably got your first phone around like 10 or 11, going to middle school, going to stuff like that. You got your first phone and stuff like that. And then after that, you felt sociable enough to where you could interact with random people. But the generation afterwards, oh no. The generation afterwards, it's like they come out their mom's womb with an iPad. They come out their mom's womb understanding technology in a way that I never understood until I only understood how to put the HDMI cord into TVs and stuff like that. And that's because I've just been a gamer since I was a little kid. But my little brother, who's like 5 years old, telling me different settings for the TV I had no idea about. Got me feeling old as hell. Like, these kids nowadays know more about technology than and the next generation is going to know even more, because I'm pretty sure they're going to just come out the womb with the brain chip inserted. They're going to have ChatGPT inserted from birth, so they know everything from the beginning of time. But I understand the anxiety because, first of all, people aren't as sociable as they were before. Nowadays, if your kid is like 5 or 6 and doesn't have an iPad, they're gonna be like, "Mom, where's the iPad?" And the thing that's fucked up is that you kind of gotta have the kid around that age with that stuff, because you gotta go grind, you gotta go get money. Kids are expensive, so you gotta give them something to distract themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's and then housing is difficult to buy. You're gonna be in debt for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? For the rest of your life, you're gonna be in debt. You get a car, you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life, but you're going to be in debt for a while. What else is a big money eater? You went to school, you're going to be in debt. Unless you get like a 6-figure paying job, you're going to be in debt for a while. And then imagine if you just got a bum for a partner, man or female. If you got a bum baby mama, your life is going to be hell. You got a bum baby daddy, your life is going to be hell, man. And that kid's life is going to be hell. Not even your life only. That kid's life's going to be hell, man. We're living in hellish times right now.
Imaginary fears, they're just a logical reaction to the world we were handed. That's why I want to talk about the fears that actually define Gen Z. These are in no particular order, and some of these might seem more serious than others, but I think they're all valid in their own way, so I want to discuss them. Starting off, we have to discuss the fear of not owning a home, because this is ridiculous.
I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up.
None of us are going to go own houses. And the reason why none of us are going to own houses nowadays, bro, is because all the old people are the ones with the money. They're the ones with the money and they're hoarding it. And I understand hoarding it for your family, but it's like they're hoarding it for themselves. I don't understand. What do you gain by having housing prices as high as they are if nobody can buy a house? If the debt's either going to just get transferred to my next of kin, like what's the point? It doesn't make any sense.
A new survey found that 21% of respondents believe World War III is more likely to happen in the next 5 years than them buying a home. Nearly the same share think they'll be more likely to win the fucking lottery in the same time frame. I don't understand how it's possible that you have people entering the workforce in Gen Z in the United States that are not even sure if they're gonna get to have a house. Gen Z is the first generation that never had a realistic path into home ownership. Like, by the time time we hit adulthood, housing prices were already completely disconnected from wages, so there was no buy cheap early phase that older generations had. At the same time, rent became so expensive that it had stopped being a stepping stone and it turned into a permanent drain on income, making it almost impossible to save for a down payment. On top of that, Gen Z isn't competing with other first-time buyers anymore. We're competing with
Bro, I fucking love this movie, bro. The Dictator is funny as shit. But yeah, we're competing with private equity firms that are just buying all the single houses. And to make it worse, I don't understand their plan either, because you're just buying up other houses and that's shooting the price of the houses up. Cool. But if normal, regular people can't buy the houses, are you going to be selling these houses to these people? Okay, and if they can't afford your prices, then what the hell happens next? Like, it's not the same as the 2008 crisis from what I'm understanding, where they were just handing out loans that they knew people couldn't pay back. But it's different in the sense that if you buy everything and raise the prices and nobody can afford it, you're going to have to sell everything at a lower price and you're going to lose money. So it doesn't even make any sense.
Corporations and investors who can pay cash and don't care about interest rates, add student loan debt, higher mortgage rates, and wages that haven't kept up, and even people who do everything right still can't afford to buy. And because jobs are concentrated in expensive cities, the just move somewhere cheaper argument usually means giving up career opportunities. So a lot of people are stuck choosing between financial survival now or the possibility of owning a home later, with no option that actually feels stable. According to the National Association of Realtors, in 2025, the median age of first-time home buyers in the US reached a record high of 40 years old, up from 38 years old in 2024. Let's say that you just turned 19 in 2025 instead of staying 18 back in 24. Your paycheck probably didn't jump much. You're still young, you got entry-level wages, maybe a tiny raise if you're lucky. You're still scraping by on that starter salary while rent devours half of it. But in that 1 year, from 2024 to 25, the housing market cranked up in difficulty. So congrats, you aged 1 year and your income barely moved, but the bar to buy your first place effectively rose about 5%. You, for the crime of being 18 years old, are now punished with a 5% difficulty increase in experiencing an essential life purchase. Moving.
And that's so messed up, bro. You could literally do everything right. If you have one misstep in this country, you have one accident, bro, your life is over. That's why I feel so bad. That's why it's like I don't get as mad as I used to, because it's like, bro, all it really takes is one mistake nowadays and your life is effectively over, bro. I don't blame nobody that moves back in with their parents. I don't blame nobody that rents. I don't blame nobody that does anything to just survive. Because the way the game is set right now, it's like you have 3 ways to get rich right now. Gotta get lucky, gotta scam, or you've got to like, I want to say you have to find a way where you don't pay rent for like a very long time to save money. Because like even now, if I were to move out of my mom's basement, right? If I added rent as another expense along with my other stuff, bro, I'm paying like I think 4 bands in expenses. Excuse me? And then if I wanted to get a house, I'd have to take out a loan to get a down payment on the house, pay off that loan while paying off the mortgage. Like, bro, I feel bad.
On from that, we have to talk about Gen Z and isolation and loneliness. It's not just that we're anxious about relationships, we are statistically more isolated than any generation before us. Around 70% of Gen Z report feeling lonely or socially isolated at least some of the time. Even though we're supposedly the most connected generation in history, nearly half of us say that we have fewer friends than we'd like, and over half of us say that we have few or no friends they can rely on for support. That is definitely more than just being quiet and introverted. And it gets crazier when you look at romantic life too. Huge numbers of Gen Z report struggling to find partners, and many young men especially have little to no relationship experience, a pattern that's been documented in recent surveys showing that roughly 44% of Gen Z men didn't date in their teen years at all, which is way higher than previous generations. Some studies even show that Gen Z reports loneliness nearly double what older generations did at the same age, making us statistically the loneliest generation ever. So the fear isn't just being single, it is feeling isolated, disconnected, lacking deep friendships and real relationships in a generation that is supposed to be more connected than ever. Isolation is not just...
I say And I say it like this, right? I think the reason why it feels like that is because you get judged so much more harsher now on anything. It feels like because everybody's trying to claw to get some money, nobody wants anybody to get money, if that makes sense. Nobody wants anybody to get ahead, because if they get ahead, then the person that's behind is going to feel more lonely. So like this is the most judgmental generation of all time. That's why you got men and women doing all these things to kind of have an outwardly appearance of being perfect, is because we're the most judgmental generation of all time. We know too much about each other before we meet each other. And I think that's what fucks everything up. You got men and women. Women know too much about men before off jump, and men know too much about women off jump. So when you come across a good looking woman or you come across a good looking dude, your assumption is already one way, and that's already going to mess up the relationship. And that's why I always say the best thing that you can do when you meet anybody new is kind of just like turn your brain off for a little bit. Because even if you're right about them, right, at least enjoy the conversation for what it is. Even if you know, even if you have a problem, even if you know in your head, like, yo, this girl's probably gonna be a hoe, just go and talk to her. And then if you see that she's a hoe, you can still have conversations with hoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because somebody has a bad stereotype about them does not mean you cannot speak to them and have a rational, logical conversation with them. There's nothing wrong with that, bro.
Just bad emotionally. It has real consequences. When people don't form relationships, they don't build families or have kids, bloodlines just end. Like, that's not dramatic, that's literal. Whole family lines stop because people never find a partner, never feel stable enough, or never even get close to that stage of life. And it's already happening. Birth rates are collapsing, marriage is down, long-term relationships are down, and it's also the case that Gen Z is on track to be one of the most childless generations in modern history. And it isn't because people hate the idea of family. It is because isolation, financial stress, and social...
I'm 27 and I've never dated or been in a relationship. Notice how she never said, I'm not a virgin, or I am a virgin. And that doesn't matter. I'm just talking shit. But, bro, I don't think people understand this, bro. Being a guy in dating is much harder than being a girl in dating. Because it's not the lack of options for women. It's like we both want what the other has when it comes to dating nowadays. I think dudes would be fine having a billion options. Do you know why? Because eventually we'll just stop. We'll just be like, okay, this is it and I'm done. I think with women, because women are much more emotional, the worst thing you can give a woman is too many options. Because options bring anxiety, and with anxiety brings regrets. It always happens, bro. That's why women that's why I personally think women stay in bad situations with dudes, right? I think dudes stay in bad situations with women for a different reason, but a woman will stay in a bad situation for a dude because of potential regret. They don't want, I don't know, this dude to pop off, and then they're like, fuck, if I had just taken one more ass whooping, I would have been the queen. I would have been the queen with the king. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think having too many choices as a girl, or not too many choices. That's why I think like options, stuff like that, mess women's heads up the way it doesn't mess dudes' heads up. But because dudes think that women like this shit, which they kind of do, they're like so apprehensive when it comes to dating.
Dating apps reinforce this. Matches are based almost entirely on photos. Many people get very little feedback or attention, which leads to them assuming that the problem is how they look. Rejection becomes frequent and impersonal. Likes, views, comments, and followers turn attractiveness into numbers. People can see exactly how much attention others receive and can compare it to themselves directly. This affects behavior. People avoid posting photos, stop approaching others, hesitate to date, and become more self-conscious in public. Appearance anxiety becomes constant instead of situational. For Gen Z, looking unattractive feels like a permanent disadvantage rather than a temporary insecurity. Lastly, we have being replaced by tech.
And look, y'all, that's always gonna happen. This is bound to happen, bro. I'll keep saying it. I'll say it every video, bro. When you remove core things that were part of the dynamic from the male and female dynamic, bro, it's always gonna just come down to looks. Looks are going to be the looks are gonna be the determining factor, and then hopefully, if you make it, maybe your personality can like save you. But even if your personality saves you, if your finances don't save you, then you're extra fried. And then even if your finances save you, if your sex game is terrible, then you lose anyway. Like, bro, there's every time you get saved by one thing, if you're not saved by the next thing, it's over. That's how dating has always been. But because it's on the internet now, you get to compare these things before you even go out into the dating game. And if you don't have these things, you feel as though the relationship can't even start. It can start though. If you're a decent looking guy, you got a decent personality, your relationship can start. But then now you're thinking about your finances. If I don't have these, it's not going to continue. Then you're like, okay, I got my finances, but if I ain't putting it down right, I got a micro wiener, it's not going to continue. Like, there's so many things that we think about before we even approach people nowadays. That's why I think dating is so messed up right now.
Now, like, AI changes how people value themselves. When software companies can replicate creative work, problem solving, or communication, people start questioning what makes them necessary. And that leads to even more anxiety about being interchangeable, disposable, or replaceable. Anyway, I know I didn't get to cover everything in the—
And look, I'll say it like this, right? When it comes to the AI argument, it's so odd because when you pull back and you look at it, AI should only be a tool. It should never be a replacement. If it becomes a replacement, then that's when stuff gets shifty. If AI can just do all these menial labor jobs, okay, all those people that work those jobs, how do they make money? How do they eat now? You know, what do they do? And I always say it's the poorest people that hold up society. If you have no poor people that are willing to do these uggo-fuggo jobs that nobody else wants to do, society collapses from within because the rich person doesn't know how to do any of this shit. Most middle-class people don't know how to do any of this shit either. So if you're just reliant on AI, which is a company, and that company at any time can just turn everything off and you don't know how to do it, then what do? You're at the behest of these companies then. If they control every little small thing, now you're at the behest of these companies. And then what do you do if they add to the terms of service some shit like, yo, if your social credit score ain't high enough, bro, you don't get no internet or no water. You can't drive around and stuff in your AI electric car. Like, bro, it's getting it, and they're doing it so slowly that you don't notice. But replacing all these jobs, doing all this stuff, bro, is not good for the country. If you're banking on everything, if you're banking on our economy that AI has to work, you're a fool. Because if society as a whole does not accept it, then it's going to fail. But all in all, man, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Come to the 9th floor so y'all can learn game the right way, man. I'm out this joint, man. Peace.